Step into a kitchen from decades ago, and you'd be surprised by what you'd see. No air fryers, no digital coffee makers, and no sleek microwaves. Instead, the counters were filled with gadgets that were sometimes brilliant, sometimes strange, and sometimes just plain unnecessary. But for the families who used them, these tools weren't just about cooking. They were about survival, tradition, and even a bit of fun. So why did they vanish? Were they replaced by better technology, or did they simply fall out of fashion? Today, we're opening the cupboards of the past to rediscover 15 kitchen gadgets that once felt essential, but have now completely disappeared. And wait until you hear about number 12. It might just blow your mind. 1. The butter churn. Before butter came wrapped in paper and stacked neatly in grocery store refrigerators, families made it themselves. A butter churn was often a tall wooden barrel with a paddle inside, and it required serious muscle to work. Kids were often asked to help, taking turns pushing the paddle up and down until the cream turned into golden butter. It wasn't quick or easy, but it connected families to their food in a way that feels almost unimaginable today. What we now see as a rustic antique was once an everyday necessity. 2. The hand crank egg beater. This gadget looked like a science experiment with its gears and spinning beaters. Before electric mixers became common, this was the fastest way to whip eggs, make meringues, or mix cake batter. Housewives prized it because it saved time compared to a whisk. The only problem: your arms still got tired after a while. When electric mixers arrived, the crank was quickly abandoned, but many people still remember the satisfying whirring sound it made. 3. The meat grinder. Heavy, clunky, and often clamped to the side of the counter, the meat grinder was a staple in many kitchens. Families would grind beef, pork, or even chicken at home because pre-packaged ground meat wasn't widely available. Some even used it to grind nuts or vegetables. It gave people more control over their food, but cleaning it was a nightmare. Grease and meat would stick in the small parts. Today, it's mostly seen in vintage shops or as a tool for hunters and butchers. 4. The rotary phone timer. Long before microwave timers or smartphone apps, families relied on quirky wind-up timers. Some were shaped like chickens, eggs, or even tiny telephones. You'd twist the knob, hear the ticking, and then ding. When time was up. It wasn't just functional, it was fun. Kids loved setting them just to hear the bell. But as ovens, microwaves, and phones began including timers, these charming gadgets faded into history. 5. The Jell-O mold. If you grew up in the 1950s or 60s, you know just how popular Jell-O molds were. From family reunions to holiday parties, there was always a wobbly, brightly colored dish on the table. Some recipes were sweet, while others, well, let's just say tuna and olives suspended in gelatin was an acquired taste. The molds themselves were works of art, copper or aluminum, shaped like rings, flowers, or castles. They made food into a centerpiece. Today, they've disappeared from kitchens, living on mostly as quirky collectibles. 6. The ice crusher. Summer in the mid-20th century often meant gathering with friends for cocktails or sodas, and the hand crank ice crusher made it possible. You'd feed in big chunks of ice, turn the handle, and collect small, crushed pieces perfect for drinks. It was noisy, messy, and slow, but it felt special at the time. Modern refrigerators with built-in dispensers and blenders have completely taken over this job. 7. The toastolator. This was no ordinary toaster. It was a conveyor belt for bread. You'd drop in a slice, and it would slowly ride through the machine, popping out golden brown on the other side. It looked futuristic and was fun to watch, almost like a mini factory in your kitchen. But it was bulky, expensive, and impractical. Eventually, the classic pop-up toaster became the winner, while the toastolator became a quirky collector's item. 8. The flour sifter. Every serious baker once had a crank-style flour sifter. You'd pour flour in, turn the handle, and watch it fall out as a fine, soft powder. This was essential for making cakes light and fluffy, because flour back then was often clumpier than what we buy today. While some bakers still use them, modern pre-sifted flour has made this gadget far less common. Still, the sound of the crank and the dusting of flour in the air bring back fond memories for many. 9. The icebox. Before refrigerators became affordable, families relied on the icebox. It was a wooden cabinet lined with tin, and every few days an iceman would deliver a giant block of ice to keep food cold. Kids often waited by the door to watch him haul the heavy block inside. The icebox was a symbol of daily life, but once electric refrigerators spread in the 20th century, the icebox disappeared almost overnight. Only the word icebox remains in our vocabulary. 10. The hand juicer press. Heavy and built to last, these cast-iron gadgets squeezed every drop from oranges, lemons, or grapefruits. The long handle gave extra force, and for families who drank fresh juice, it was a daily routine. But they were large and hard to store. Once electric juicers and bottled juice became common, the hand press became less practical, slowly vanishing from kitchens. 11. The butter mold. Homemade butter wasn't just about taste, it was also about presentation. Families would press their fresh butter into wooden molds carved with flowers, leaves, or even initials. It turned a simple block of butter into something beautiful and personal. Today, it's a charming reminder of how much care went into even the smallest details of home cooking. 12. The cherry pitter. This little gadget looked strange but had one purpose: removing pits from cherries one by one. It made pies, jams, and desserts much easier, but it was messy, and if you had a big bowl of cherries, it took forever. As pre-pitted fruits and modern slicers came along, the cherry pitter was quietly retired, remembered mostly by those who grew up watching their parents prepare homemade desserts. 13. The percolator coffee pot. Before Keurigs, drip machines, or fancy espresso makers, the percolator ruled American kitchens. It worked by cycling boiling water through a basket of coffee grounds, filling the house with a rich, bubbling aroma. For many, that smell is pure nostalgia. But percolators often made bitter coffee if left on too long, and drip machines soon replaced them. Still, vintage percolators remain a symbol of mid-century mornings. 14. The rolling pin with patterns. Not all rolling pins were plain. Some were carved with designs, flowers, diamonds, or swirls that left decorative imprints on pie crusts and cookies. They turned baking into an art form, making every dessert unique. But as baking became more about convenience, these decorative tools disappeared. Today, they're mostly rediscovered by collectors or creative bakers bringing the tradition back. 15. The tin bread box. Almost every mid-century kitchen had a bread box sitting proudly on the counter. It wasn't just for storage, it actually kept bread fresher longer in a time before preservatives. Families lifted the lid daily, and kids often snuck cookies or snacks from inside. With the rise of plastic packaging and store-bought loaves that lasted longer, the bread box slowly disappeared. Today, it's remembered as one of the most iconic symbols of a retro American kitchen. Kitchens are the heart of every home, and the gadgets we once relied on say so much about how families lived. From butter churns to bread boxes, each one reminds us of a time when cooking was slower, more hands-on, and often more personal. So, which of these gadgets do you remember? Did your grandparents keep a percolator on the stove, or maybe a bread box on the counter? Share your memories in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. And if you enjoyed this trip back in time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we keep remembering America's past, one story at a time.